Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
I realised, Zach, a while ago that the sort of intro trope that we have going is that I say hello, we introduce ourselves, then I go, how's it going, Zach? What have you been up to? And you speak for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then you just sort of stop, and then I go, I'm good too, thanks, and then we kick into the F1 news. But I don't know if we're going to do that again this week or not.
No. How are you, mate? What's going on?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. How about you?
I've got 4 or 5 minutes prepared material to take you through. I really like it when we do pre-show stuff.
We've just spent half an hour catching up.
Us? Yeah, exactly. And we covered really where our whole relationship started. We went in full Apple mode again.
Basically, yes.
Got some new phones, and that's always nice. But it's been 5 years since I've had a new phone, and I picked it up and I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Yep, just doing the same old, and that's all fun and good.
Black and flat. Love it.
Yeah, black and flat. Love it. What I really want, Rod, much like Formula One cars, I want a really small little guy who just can fit on my car keys that I can...
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
It's not in the notes, but there is a news story that apparently in about 18 months' time, the cars are going to be 5% smaller. So I thought,
5%?
I thought of you.
Yeah, but I bet you they'll grow by 10% before then. Soon we're just going to have to be extending Formula One tracks to be even wider. Because it's like, can't fit through. Well, we had that in Qatar, right? You can't fit three cars through there. So you could. You used to be able to, but now they're big, fatty cars. They're huge, inflated, massive cars. Anyway, so yeah.
Since there's a running gag already that all the cars are going to be too big, and that's going to be your solution to everything.
Oh, to all of the things, It's, too hot in Qatar, cars are too big. If they're going to be that big, put aircon in them. All this kind of stuff. Cool the drivers down. Anyway,
yeah.
It's been a lot that's been going on in Formula One, right?
We've both got new phones. You've got shoes with individual toes. Don't need to dive into any of that.
Can't believe you're going to burn me on that.
Stuff. Well, why not?
Why don't the Formula One drivers have that? They like to do funky stuff.
Have to help with their feel, their pedal feel.
Yes, pedal feel. Exactly.
And big problem is getting dehydrated and losing circulation, where you get pins and needles in your feet. But what's good for actually improving circulation in your feet is wiggling your toes, which could only be easier if you have shoes with individual toes.
Yeah, I think it's just a fashion thing that's preventing it, really. I think that they're too afraid. Puma, you need to get in there with some Formula One toe shoes.
Too afraid. Well, which drivers are not? Which drivers, don't let the man tell them what to do fashion-wise. Who's the driver that's going to pioneer racing shoes with individual toes?
Oh dear. I think from a fashion perspective, it's always hard to look past Lewis Hamilton, but that would have to be a tie-in with some sort of fashion label. But I could definitely see, Fernando Alonso doing this too, for it's better for driving and it's also my personal style. Get your Kamoa toe shoes for new racing feel now. Great for the drive to the news agent on a Sunday morning, but also for high performance drive around the Nürburgring.
True. Yeah, so true. I guess the thing about him is you just tell him that samurais fight best when they're barefoot. He'd be like, oh, exactly. Now you've got me. Now I'm hooked.
They had those little shoes. I'm making hand movements.
Yeah.
That's no useful doing on.
Almost like ballerina shoes, aren't they?
Little sandals.
They're like little sandally things.
With a flip-flop toe securement thing there. Bands. You know what I mean. Anyway, yeah.
Better for running up against the wall and then sort of jumping and flipping over.
And then stabbing a guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, there's been a few races since the last time we caught up, and we're going to cover all the big topics. We've been sort of teasing our favourites of the topics and expanding on the list of topics that we have. So, we've got a packed show ahead, and then going to be a super quiz later that I've got ready for you. Woo. Some of the topics will tie into the super quiz a little bit. Ooh. But is there one that you want to start with?
I love that we've been highlighting the topics we want to get into, and none of them have been the fact that we have a new... But is he new or old?
Another
Formula One world champion. Another one.
So someone pointed out that he only wins championships in weird ways. So first one, obvious, 21. We don't even need to go there. Half of the people just stopped the podcast in disgust. Number two, his second one was one where he won, where they were you have to win by a certain number of points, and then someone got a penalty, and that dropped them down, and then he became champion. Remember that? There was all this confusion post-race. He was like, am I champion or not? I don't know. Do I go sit in the weird chair? This year...
Oh, yeah, the weird chair.
The weird chair, remember? This year, the weird way that he won was friggin' sprint race. which means
like a sprint race, mate.
He won and couldn't celebrate because the next day he had a Grand Prix to drive.
Yeah, but you know,
I hate this.
How does Max Verstappen celebrate though? Right? What does he do? Have a Red Bull and then go to bed a little bit later?
Amazing story about Red Bulls. I don't know if you want to go there first or if you want to...
Yes, hit me up. Okay. We'll go back to Max.
There was, on Sky, there was an interview with Lewis Hamilton where he was sitting in the Mercedes hospitality unit and someone noticed behind him there was a QR code with George Russell's name on it. And everybody on the internet went, wonder what that does. So they scanned it into their phones and it says, would you like to order a Red Bull for George Russell? And thousands of people hit yes. And all of a sudden, the entire weekend supply of Red Bull was depleted, all delivered to Mr. Russell. Amazing. Just amazing scenes.
Guys, first of all, shouldn't it be Monster? I thought that was the Mercedes sponsor.
They said that. They said we don't advertise that it's Red Bull for obvious reasons. Yeah. But having said that, you know.
I'm also kind of surprised that Formula One drivers are interested in having energy drinks like that. Like I thought they'd be on the Tenzings, you know, the more natural energy ones, or the Perfect 10s, or these kinds of things, or that they wouldn't want to put that. Maybe just straight up caffeine, but wow.
I don't know.
And why does he need a QR code? Why doesn't he just have it? Doesn't he just text someone? I suppose it's very easy.
Yeah, just ask his assistant to get one for him. I guess it's just one of those things that's just like a convenience. Just what's the easiest way for me to just know what you're thinking? You just scan the QR code and hit yes. And I don't know. I can't tell you any more than that, but that's what happened.
What other... So this is... Okay, this is one example. Tell me the other ones that George Russell has in his life, the other QR codes that are around the Mercedes facilities on the weekend, on those racing weekends.
The other thing I know about him was that they were asking him recently, like, do you use this shampoo or do you use that shampoo? It was like 2 luxury brands, and he was like, I'm a Head and Shoulders man, actually.
Yeah,
so I imagine he has a QR code in his shower that he scans, and someone an assistant brings him the perfectly sized bottle of Head and Shoulders.
One single use. Because he's a Formula 1 driver. Yeah, it's the perfect pre-measured amount. I reckon he's got... Do you need another Ralph Lauren quarter zip sweater? Yes. Straight away. I need it right now. Who knows what kind of semi-formal...
The perfect amount of zip.
It's the perfect amount of zip. You know, just enough to show off the fact that you're wearing a shirt underneath. People need to know you're formal under that jumper. Yeah. Okay? You can't be known to be... seen to be... informal in some way.
Need to impress your date? Change up your look by undoing your quarter zip.
Is that one chest hair I can see? It is. The perfect amount. Chest hair to show you.
It on with crayon.
Harsh. I can't imagine there's... What is Toto Wolff? He must have these QR codes as well. I can imagine he would have.
Yeah.
New headphones. He smashed one pair. He needs another one right away.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, I'm so furious with Lewis. I just smashed these Bose headphones right against the wall. I need a new pair right now.
Yeah, there's £2,000 worth of headphones. Just get me another pair.
F1 podcasters will literally do anything instead of talking about Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen winning a world championship. Because he's just won every single race, right? Even at the end of this race, he was like, how's that, guys? And another win. Here we go.
One. And they said something like, what's it like for the rest of the year now? Can you just ease off? And he's like, no, I've got lots more races that I want to win. It's like,
I'm going to win all these races.
What a nerd.
Yeah, what a fucking nerd.
But well done. 3-time world nerd.
What other drivers, though, would have... Have we known any driver to take their foot off the pedal after they've won the championship in the modern era? I feel like... Did Sebastian Vettel maybe give people the opportunity to win some races? Did Hamilton ever do this? Let Bottas go and win a couple? I've won the thing now. Maybe I won't race as hard as I would previously.
I mean, for sure, I feel like with Lewis Hamilton, he would definitely have 2 races after he won the championship where he just had a bit of a hangover. Like he just was not 100% because he just didn't have to, because he puts all his energy into hyper-focus into winning. And then when he wins, he's like, well, I don't have that same motivation. I've got different motivations, but not that
climb
same
the mountain
one.
Now.
But for sure, he would have a little hangover, but it would never went away completely. But the one thing I know about Verstappen for sure is he's not going to just not win and give some victories to Perez, because he's just not like that. He wants to crush him.
No, I think you're right. So why do I want to tie this with another talking point? So congratulations to Max Verstappen, but I want to keep talking keep talking about him in the context of this other talking point. F1 declining popularity, says report.
This is a great pairing.
Sources say. I think was...
Yeah,
go on, you tell me.
No, I was going to say, have you read the report?
Not top to tail, no. You're going to give me the highlights.
I haven't read it either. It's 25 pages.
Oh, well,
I was going to say, it's by... Who is it by? It's like Buzz Marketing or some...
I need a podcast company to summarize it for me so I can come on
Buzz
here and talk
Radar.
about it. Ooh.
So this is
BuzzFeed?
No, not by BuzzFeed, but it's probably owned by the Buzz Group.
Huh.
The thing for me, so first of all, you haven't heard of this, and I'm sure you have, but just in case you haven't, a report came out saying Formula One has peaked and the popularity is starting to decline. This is based on numbers from 2022 compared to 2023. Social media engagements all down, sentiment down, just across the board, down. This got picked up by practically everybody, every major Formula One, major and minor, and they all said this is doom and gloom. Everything's fucked, basically. Here's some of the numbers. Social media mentions down 70%. New followers across major accounts down 46%. Overall social media reach down 64%. I mean, easily disprovable things like new followers down by 46%. Like, what? One of the things, too, is that they were comparing last year to this year. Now, 2021, you might remember, was a pretty controversial end to the season, and then there was a lot of interest in Formula One in 2022. So, of course, those numbers were kind of goosed, and now we're probably just seeing a natural correction. But I feel like mostly what's going on is people who write about the sport and talk about the sport want to talk it down because they're bored, and they're like, "See, here's a report." And this is literally the big point. Who the fuck has heard of Buzz Radar before?
No, that's true. But these are the third parties who do this kind of investigation, right? Like, what do you expect? Gartner?
Oh, yeah, and apparently they use AI to power their insights.
I love AI, and it loves us.
I love AI.
I'm using AI. I fucking love AI. Look,
I can't look into Twitter, but one of the things I was going to say is, have a guess how many people follow Buzz Radar on Twitter?
I'm going to say 700.
There's 1,600.
Okay, that's not very many.
No. I mean, if you're going to talk about social media reach and engagement, how about you fucking start with your own account, boys?
Wow. Okay. I think this is a low blow. Let's get back to the main issue here, which is that it's true. Formula One is less buzzy because it gets a big leap around. My solution to this?
Yeah.
They should be putting out Drive to Survive as it goes. We need one every month during the season, because by the time you get to the end of the season, all the... Like, if you're interested in Drive to Survive and all the ins and outs and all the kind of, what happened there, by the end of the season, it's all played out, right? There's no tie-in between that show and its hype and racing week to week, right? Those two things have very little Venn diagram overlap, I think.
Sure.
And so people who got into Formula One post-pandemic because it was like big and alive, and it is a weird, crazy thing, this sport, but a lot of the times it's not very interesting. And you really got to dig into the detail, and sometimes that detail just isn't very good or isn't very fun.
You get up at 4 a.m. to watch a race, etc.
Exactly, and so a lot of the racing has been a lot of the racing has been quite boring, because if you're looking for get up the front, who's going to challenge? Well, Max, that's the only guy. So all in all,
you've been watching Formula One for a long time. 90% of the time, racing's not that fun or exciting necessarily.
Yeah. No, it's...
You have moments, or you can go looking for your own storylines. You've talked about this as well, introducing new people who watch Drive to Survive and are like, no, let's watch some F1. And they're like, this guy wins every race. How do I watch this? And you're like, you've got to look for the other storylines.
Yeah. Got to follow, Yuki Tsunoda and think about him.
Exactly.
And hope that that's going to... But so much of the narrative this season, when you get such a dominant season as well in the media and the coverage, is like, wow, so dominant. Let's talk more about Max Verstappen. And so you're like, okay, well, that is the story all the time. So it is tricky when that's really what sports like stock in trade is. Be competitive. That's the main storyline, and it's not been that competitive. And so that leads to the kind of trough of popularity, I suppose. And I think that's tricky for Formula One, because if they based all of their projections on this idea that, yes, Formula One's just going to continue to race up in popularity, we're going to invest all this money into it, we're going to, either plump it for sale or just turn it into this huge beast of a product. Well, it turns out all this other sport's back as well, and when it's competing for eyeballs, and when there's everything else is back, things like going to the pub is back, and restaurants and holidays and all of this kind of stuff, that starts to, take some of the attention away from this sport that can ask a lot of you, really.
Yeah. I mean, doing these live streams and then cutting them into little stories, but there's a little video on our YouTube channel that's called F1 is Doomed, and this is from 3 or 4 months ago. That's the exact same thing. Formula One's completely doomed. Yeah. And then at the same time, you look at attendance rates at the races, and they're all selling out and setting new records. Like there is no problem right now with interest. It's about converting the interest into medium and long-term, passion and loyalty. That, I think, is the struggle right now. But everyone's just trying to convert this anti-Max Verstappen sentiment into a doom and gloom narrative. I just think that's pretty thin. No, I think that's on the surface. That's Formula One has been uncompetitive for a little bit of time now, and I don't think these changes to the cars from the last big formula change have really made it that much more competitive. It's brought some other teams forward, and it's helped. It's helped Williams, it's helped McLaren, it's kept Ferrari the same, continuing to tread water, and I suppose it kind of took Mercedes' dominance away. But at the same time, I still think that Liberty are doing a lot of good stuff to try to make the actual product more interesting, in trying to put more voices, show more voices. I think they're trying to play with the format. I think they're trying to make the race weekends more interesting, especially for fans going. That's one of the other things. Do people want to go? Like, is it a big enough tourist attraction to be like, I'm going to go to Spa and see the race? Or is it more like what they're actually investing in now? It's like, let's put the race in Vegas. Let's put the race in Miami, because people will go to those places to see a Formula One race. Will they go to Hungary? No, because it's hard to get to the track. Will they go to, I think, other far off places? I think they're probably going to see a consolidation of the calendar as well, to places that are either will happily pay a huge amount of money to have it for sports washing or other reasons, or that are incredible tourist attractions for cities and countries that want to make a lot of money from people coming to the race. And we'll probably lose some of our historical races over time as well. I mean, it happened for the German Grand Prix, right? People just weren't going because it's hard to get to. And where do you stay? And Formula One's glamorous entertainment value doesn't actually jive very well with camping in a field and walking to a hot racetrack. Like that, those two things don't actually sit very well together. So Formula One has a big, I think, brand interpretation problem, is that people probably think of it as like a big music festival if they're going to go, but it's actually not really like that. No, can't imagine it's like that at all, really. I think some of the things you just brought up there lead us into another point that's on here, which is about, we just had the race in Qatar, and two things. I want to come to the second one first. Number one is the event itself, where it's run, when it's run, the effects of the event on the drivers. We had poor old Senior Sergeant Logan having to pull out of the race because he was just too sick to drive. We had headlines after the race, Esteban Ocon saying, "I threw up in my helmet." And that's legitimately dangerous as well as revolting. It's also dangerous. Yeah. And when you said something like sprint races, let's revisit the race weekend format. I mean, people are talking about this race is going to get moved to a slightly different time of year, and so the heat won't be such a problem. But I was thinking, I hate sprint races. But if you're going to have a sprint race, why not have a sprint race and a shortened race the next day at these kinds of events where the conditions are grueling and challenging? You'd rather have 2 45-minute races spread across 2 days than 1 2-hour race where people are literally putting their lives in danger because they're going through corners with incredible Gs where they're like at risk of blacking out, throwing up in their visor, or having to retire, not for mechanical reasons, just for physical reasons. I mean, it just seems like a shorter race that weekend. Run a bit of it on Saturday. Make that the sprint. Shorten the race, though,
Yeah, I like that.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Formula One's hard enough test as it is, just because the athletes are really high-performance athletes. They have been for the last 25 years, or their whole careers, but, especially these days, they are ultra-high-performing. there's seasons longer than it's ever been, with more travel than there's ever been. So it's no surprise that when you can put them in extreme weather temperatures, which are only going to get more extreme as time goes on as well, that, you're going to end up with stuff like this, and it shouldn't really be happening. This sport has a duty of care. The teams have a duty of care to their races as well, and it shouldn't be up to a team to have to decide, or a driver to be like, God, I think I'm endangering myself here and I might black out, but this team does need points, or we
that's what
can't
I mean.
Let down the sponsors.
It's easy for the guy running last to make that choice. What if you're what if you're in the running for points or a podium and your team badly needs it? I mean, you're more likely to push yourself and put yourself in an even more dangerous position.
Yeah, exactly. So no, not a fan of that. But we've seen it in other sports too, to pick on our own country. I don't think that the Australian Open in tennis, we should be having tennis players out in uncovered environments where it's 45 degrees playing 6 hours of tennis. Like, that's just stupid, and I feel like all sport is trying to catch up after the pandemic of like, but we have to pack in all this sport, all these World Cups have to happen, and all of this racing has to happen, and everything has to happen right now. And, it doesn't happen without them. The people who are competing in these sports. So we owe them a duty of care first and foremost. Even though they get paid a lot of money and it's a dream job, yada, 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 that, if anything, puts a lot more pressure on them. Yeah. So we should be looking after them.
Hard, bordering on impossible, under perfect conditions for a normal person to do it. So,
exactly.
Let alone extreme conditions.
I'm doing bad podcast host job now. There was a video going around interviews. Was it with Daniel Ricciardo or was it with Lewis? Saying, let's get those. Oh, no, it was Carlos Sainz, I reckon. He's like, let's get those reverse grids going on. Let's get some interesting racing. Like, he wants to, he was like, I'm a fan of this kind of stuff, that
was him. Yeah, they were talking about whether he likes the sprint format. He's like, the thing about the sprints is it's fine, but we should be doing reverse grids.
What did you think of that?
I don't like reverse grids. I think it's stupid. But, I agree that we could just do something. Like, if we're going to do it, make it really different.
Yeah. Well, because I liked what he said about the fact that you would have drivers at the front who are just trying to hold on to staying in the top 10 to get some points. And then you'd have Max Verstappen at the back trying really hard to get to the front to win or to get into the points. And so he's like, you just create a really interesting dynamic across the grid. And he's like, even though it's a manufactured dynamic, it would be just really interesting. And I'm with you. I think if you're going to have sprint, let's have some more variation in formats because it's fun, right? I didn't used to be this guy. I used to be more of a purist to be like, no, the race is the race. That's the important part. But now I'm like, I don't know. Can we do anything? Can we
do something? Please, anything. I'll take anything right now.
Yeah. I mean, on the Fridays and Saturdays, I think it's fun. The race, I like the races as they are. The race should be the race. But, more and more, I'm like, can we get them to, I don't know, race on motorbikes? Change up the format a little bit, see who's the fastest around.
Can you get some double dash stuff going? Maybe someone rides
reverse
on the
track, mirror track.
Obstacles at other cars.
Yeah.
Double dash. Well, it wasn't intentional, but this weekend we did get a quasi-experiment in race formatness because we had a revisit to the old sort of problems of 9-10 years ago where the old tyres were falling apart. And they had to intervene and say, hey, whoa, we're a bit worried about these tyres. This is a bit unsafe. Let's enforce people having limited stints on their tyres, effectively committing everyone to a minimum 3 stops in the race, which was something different. You don't see that every day. No,
exactly. Do you think that it's a shame, right? Because the tyre thing's been going on for a long time. We haven't revisited tyres in a little while. Have you got what's your latest tyre take now that we're going to be locked in with Pirelli until 2028 as well?
Is it time for tyre talk already?
Yeah, it's tyre talk.
I've been wanting a tyre war for a long time, but it seems like we're committed to not getting one. So, okay, that's off the table. I still say we need to widen the gap between hard and soft tyres to encourage people to say, don't worry about using both. If you want to go soft, hard, fine, but someone else might go soft, and they're going to try and chase you down. That's the risk. And I just want to introduce some variability in that way. So I still want that.
Yep, I like that idea. I'm here for that too. Let teams. I actually think it helped when they started letting teams have a little bit more control over what they wanted to do during the weekend, but then they've enforced some more stuff in qualifying, so maybe a little bit more difficult. But yeah, just here are all your tyres for the weekend. Use them as you will. You know, what do you want to use them all on the race day? You want to go all hard, as you said, or soft? Go for it. Because, it
just one of those things that, like, in the refueling era, people used to literally have to choose when they pitted to be like, I'm going to fill up with fuel to the end of the race and I'll be heavy, but I won't have to stop a second time. And other people would do the classic splash and dash and pull in. Give me the minimum amount of fuel to get to the next pit stop because I don't want to go fast, and have a chance to overtake some drivers. Otherwise, my race is cooked. And just having no variability, I think, is really we're just lacking some dynamic. That's all.
Yeah, it really does lock teams into their race strategy as well. They're not as flexible, or the teams at the back aren't. I think we're seeing less. I don't know, like kind of less maybe effort. No, like effort's not right. Effort's in the wrong word completely. Scratch that from the record, would you, producer who's me? I would say less aspiration, maybe, or less experimentation from those teams that are like, oh God, why don't we just try this really long strategy? Why don't we try this kind of, the race has kind of been fucked over. Let's try some random stuff to see if we can get anywhere.
To hear race engineers say, oh, the FIA is mandating these limited stints on the tyres. We're going to have to stop 3, maybe 4 times. Our computer systems can't even handle that. It's like, fuck the computer systems. Stop when you need to stop and keep going. I was amazed when they started the race and they were like, you're going to have to stop a gajillion times this race. There was an early safety car. They're like, let's stop. Why? Why are you stopping? You've got to stop 5 laps later anyway.
Yeah, it's... it's very rigid. I feel like it's become very formulaic. And there was a little period where it felt a little less formulaic. But now we know when everyone's going to stop. Every track either has an undercut or an overcut.
Yeah.
And we know by Sunday how the teams perform on certain tyres. And so that's it. Like it not to say it's a fait accompli, because we've had a lot of upsets and a lot of randomness this season so far, which has been really, really, really good. But there's also been a lot of like, oh, yep, that's what we expected based on all of the information we had so far this weekend. Mm-hmm. We got the result that we all expected. So, yep, you're right, Rod. Let them race on paper if they want to. Tell me about our new favourite driver, Oscar Piastri. We've been standing him from day one.
Have we? Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I think back to when Daniel Ricciardo arrives on the grid and I was in Mark Webber mode and I just totally missed the arrival of Daniel Ricciardo. Like, I knew he was there, but I was like, yeah, but Mark Webber's kind of the big show. He might win a race and stuff. I feel like Oscar Piastri was sort of like, well, Daniel's gone. Now it's Oscar's time to shine. Someone the other day described Oscar Piastri as having huge granddad energy, and I couldn't agree more. But I have to say, even though he's much more in the Mark Webber personality camp than a Daniel Ricciardo, I feel like people are so warm to Piastri, not because he has been racing well recently, but just his vibe. They really, I feel like people love his vibe, and yet his dynamic and vibe is so different than Daniel's. Do you feel that?
Oh, 100%. There is it's almost a generational gap, I would say. I think Daniel's like, well, let's have fun. Like, I'm a rock star for like that. And
Daniel's Oscar like the life of the party, but I feel like Oscar's the one everyone relates to.
Yeah, Oscar's like, you know how I got here? I worked really hard, and I know I'm talented. I'm not going to waste it. And it's all coming together almost exactly as I planned. And I'm not here to be, I'm not like, I deserve a world championship. I'm like, get the results and pretty happy about it. Or I'm not happy about it. Like, it just seems really, really like regular.
He gets a qualifying penalty, and then he wins the sprint race, and he says, hopefully the FIA don't give me another 5-second penalty now. Boom. He's Simple. Not doing shoeies or handstands or like high-fiving Will.i.am or whatever, but he's just so likable in a different way.
No, I think we've moved past the showmanship that is like, wow, look at them breaking out of the mold of the tight, professional Formula One driver. Look at him. He's crazy. He's like one of us. And now
I'm a wannabe TikTok star.
Yes.
We had that phase as well, but now we're past that as well.
Yeah, I think we just need that shine is rubbing off a little bit, and we're like, a guy doing the thing that he's there to do, being being the role that people want. It's nice. But he's really good though. Was a dominant.
Obviously, McLaren have developed themselves into a great position to be behind Red Bull, but the leaders of the rest. And, I mean, I would have thought that Lando Norris would have walked all over Oscar Piastri, but he's really showing them what he's made of, which is he can drive that car really quick.
Yeah.
Just, like, reaping the spoils right now, wins the sprint race. And this is the other thing. They're like, oh, Oscar Piastri's first race win. But I'm like...
No.
Oh, but it was a sprint race, though.
Yuck.
To me, that just doesn't even really count as a race win. That's like winning. That's like qualifying on pole. You know what I mean?
No. That's not anything. You know, it's debut game in a friendly. Like, that's not enough. You know, you won the Race of Champions race.
Yes, I agree.
It's not enough.
And I think the tell for that will be eventually, hopefully, he will win a Sunday race, quote unquote Sunday race, and he'll be like,
no one's ever going to win again.
It'll feel different. He'll be like, I finally did that. That's why the Saturday races and the Sunday races are not the same.
Exactly. I mean, I wonder how Lando feels about it, because Lando's excellent. Lando's been brilliant for McLaren the whole time. He's the one pulling out wins and poles and sprint race wins previously. You know, I think they don't have to be best buds, him and Oscar and Lando. So they just need to both keep performing. And McLaren are just in like dreamland. They are absolutely perfect.
They're pushing each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it kind of works as well, because Oscar can be a bit fun and Larrikin, and he's kind of in the in crew of the dominant races at the time right now. And Oscar doesn't want to be. Oscar's just like, yep, I got my own shit going on. I can imagine he turns up, does his work, and goes home.
Totally.
And like doesn't need to hang out with all the other guys, which is fine too.
It's just been such a funny year, because Red Bull have been so dominant, and then at first it was Aston Martin that were like, well, we're the second contender. Then Mercedes came good. Suddenly, remember Ferrari were winning races and filling the podium not too long ago? Then all of a sudden McLaren come out of the woodworks. And there's this fight for sort of like second in the Drivers' Championship and second in the Constructors' Championship. But they've all just taken so many points off each other that there's no one that's like a clear second for the year. But it's such a funny, like, it hasn't been consistent at all this year. We've had, like I say, you've had Ferrari, Aston Martin, McLaren, all just sort of trading like we're going to be the second best team this week. So it's just been weird to get a read on things generally.
Yep, it is. But Oscar Piastri, world champion next season. Max is going to take Max surprise secondment at the end of the season. It's like, you know what, I'm going to go do World Rally Championship for a little while. Come back into it.
One of the stats that came out of that, speaking of dominance, was like qualifying, and the stat that went around was Fernando Alonso has been in Q3 more times than Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez combined. Which, that just shouldn't be a thing that happens.
There's number 2 drivers, and then there's like second string drivers, and I think they're second string. I think that
there's number 2 drivers and second tier drivers. They're different things.
Yeah, there has been some very good number 2 drivers in the world, but there has also just been some guys who just aren't very good.
Sergio Perez just goes from, like, he was winning races at the start of the year, then like absolutely nowhere, at risk of losing his seat, then back to being on the podium regularly, and now, I mean, he's had weekends that he's just fallen apart. He's just turned to mush. Yeah, and he's not in a good place, and the other guy is in a real bad place. Really bad place. Lance Stroll. Yeah.
Tell me about Lance Stroll.
Oh, I know you didn't see this, and you said pre-show you're going to have to talk me through this, like paint a picture, so I will. But Lance Stroll,
close my eyes.
This, I was watching where they were racing in Qatar, and it was like Fernando Alonso 4th, Lance Stroll 17th, or something like that. I know he started at the back, but that, you know, he qualified extremely poorly, got eliminated, went back to the garage, and was. This is the moment everyone was talking about. Walks to the back of the garage, and his trainer just sort of, like, Lance just sort of does a bit of a loop back into the back area where there's like that little door, and his trainer just cuts just in front of him. Oh, before that, his trainer tries to grab his arm, and he pushes it away. It's like, okay, there's no like, they're like, what the hell? What are you pushing me away for? But the trainer just goes back to walk back with Lance back to the backstage pit, and it's like, right as Lance thinks, no one can see me because I'm behind this thing, you just see him shove. Like, you don't see the guy move because he's already behind where you can't see, but you know he's there, and he just shoves him. And that was they showed replays of it on the race. Everybody wrote about it. Lance Stroll, so angry that he shoves his personal trainer. And it's just like, That's a guy who is containing it as best he can, but the split second that he thinks no one can see him, he just he erupts.
Yeah,
and it's just not a good thing there.
Is this another? I mean, is Alonso just reverting to type? Every single team he goes to, he makes the entire team about him, and they either love him and he gets results, or he doesn't get results, and then everyone's like, you know what, you suck, we hate you, and he's like, yeah, the team hates me, I'm getting out. But
the thing is, even when Stroll was doing okay, everyone was like, you're only here because of your dad, and he bought the team, and he bought your seat. And then the problem is when he does badly, everyone's like, see, I told you so.
Same.
And then he needs to be the kind of driver that doesn't let it get to him, but clearly it is getting to him.
Nah. I mean, he said, I saw the interviews with him today or yesterday, and he was like, I'm just under a lot of pressure. Nothing's really working out for me. I'm not very good. It's not very good. The team's not very good right now.
Lance said that?
Well, I just said, we're underperforming.
He implied it.
X, Y, Z.
He said two words, but
you're going to stay in Formula One? And he was like, yeah, of course, I love it. Da, da, da. As long as Dad don't... I mean, as long as
he was going to quit and go and play tennis. But I think that was his social media influencer, whatever, girlfriend. Maybe I'd kind of rather go to Wimbledon than Qatar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not exactly it, is it? Well, can't he go racing? Why don't he just go do WEC or something? Can't his dad buy him a little team over there?
That was one of the stories, is that that will be his way out, is his dad will buy a World Endurance team. And he'll be like, see, I still bought a team. My son's still leading that team. He's just not leading the Formula One team anymore. He's leading this other team.
At Le Mans 24 this year, there was a really... Who was it? It was an American team that I was like, oh, wow. Might have been Mustang. Something like that. Okay. Like, oh, they're really good. And so couldn't his dad just go buy some American racing team and just make him the poster boy of that? Just be a world champion.
One of the stories about Aston Martin is that they're committed to not really... Like a few other teams, but they're like, what we've got for the rest of the year, that's it. It's not going to be any better. And they're in this battle.
We're stuck with these two drivers.
Yes, stuck with these two drivers. But also, the car is what it is. So you've got to make the most of it, and also, please make more of it, because we're in the battle with these other teams that are nearby. And I think that the pressure is just clearly just too much for him at the moment.
Yeah. No, exactly. There's only so many seats in Formula One, right? You can't... Eventually, the sponsors and the performance wins out. Eventually it gets there, right? It's why you don't see pay drivers at top teams. You see pay drivers in lower down teams, well, generally. They are... Or the pay drivers, get enough momentum that they don't need to be pay drivers anymore, and they're genuinely there on merit. And so, I can't... I'm not even going to go back to the Sergio Perez thing, there aren't very many pay drivers in the top 10 seats in Formula One, and I would argue that that Aston Martin seat is a top 10 seat, because Fernando Alonso is showing that it is. And I know he's one of the greatest drivers of all time, but I think you could take a lot of guys in and around Formula One right now and give them that Aston Martin, and they'd be extracting a lot more, definitely more than 17th. Yes. I think they'd be extracting... I think if you put Lawson in that car, or if you put Tsunoda in that car, or Ocon, or Zhou Guanyu, I think they'd be getting a lot more out of it than old mate Lance Stroll. So maybe you should stroll on over to Wimbledon and stroll out of Aston Martin.
I tell you what, though, he's not the only person who's not very happy with his teammate, with his team, with the whole situation that he finds himself in, because this one was a little bit more low-key, but I mean, I was very interested in it, was the drama at Alpine during the Japanese Grand Prix, where at the end, on the last lap, in fact, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly were asked to switch positions under team orders, which Pierre Gasly, I'll tell you, he was having a fucking fit in his car.
But, both of them are like this, They are both
of who? The two, you mean Ocon and Gasly, or Gasly and Stroll?
I think Gasly and Ocon are both like this. I think they both think that they are really good drivers, and they've actually both proved it at points in their career.
They have.
They're just not consistent enough, and I think they both are like, but we're kind of hard done by. Where's our great drive? Why aren't we at McLaren or something? It's a bit of the luck of the draw, right? So I don't know. They're both. Yeah, they're not the young guys anymore either, which I'm sure is getting to this entire class of group that only one of them has actually done anything, and that's Max Verstappen, and the rest of them are all kind of flittering around the edges.
That's kind of fair. The situation in their race, though, was that apparently Ocon was ahead of Gasly, but Gasly was faster on strategy, and the team said, Ocon, please let Gasly through. And I guess maybe they didn't make it clear or something, but the idea was, let Gasly through, he'll try and overtake the guy in front, but if he can't, you'll switch back.
You'll swap him back.
But then, come the time to switch back, Gasly was furious, and he was like, he didn't say anything on the radio, but if you've seen this footage, just him like waving his arms in the air, flipping, like just punching the air, just furious, absolutely furious. And the only way he had to express any of it was just be like, get some of this.
Little bits of the hand motions where they can just get their fingertips out of the car.
Yeah. Funny. But then Ocon was like, I don't know what your problem is. We always do this.
This is the plan. Yeah.
If you can't get past, you give it back. That's just the way it is. So what are you saying?
Gotta let the drivers talk to each other. We've said this. Why can't the drivers talk to each other? Either proximity radio or at least driver to driver. At least let drivers within the teams talk to each other.
Airdrop.
Yeah, because right now it's like we're fighting. You can tell Pierre that I said I don't think that's good.
It happens all the time. It's time for you to let the other driver through. Oh, well, then he should drive faster. It happened in Qatar, where they were like, Norris was closing in on Piastri, and they were like, please hold station. And Norris was like, no, I think you'll find we're racing. We're racers. We hit a race. It's always the guy that's
Formula One racer.
It's always the guy who wants to do one position better. He's like, no, you should let me through. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. I'm much, much, much faster. Look, ignore the fact that
slowing me down so much.
Exactly. Ignore the fact that he's racing for position, the guy in front of him, and trying to make all this other stuff happen. I'm right here. No, I think I would much prefer to hear, Charles Leclerc have to ask or tell Carlos Sainz directly, mate, I'm faster than you, and have Carlos say to him, I don't think you are. Prove it.
Leclerc, the team says to Leclerc, you have to hold station, and Leclerc's like, no, tell him he has to get out the way. They're like, no, you know what? You tell him.
You tell him. Let's patch him through now.
You see what he says. See if he's
do
happy
the Mean Girls thing. Have him on the silent, like it's a group call and you didn't know. You heard him, Carlos. Get out of the way.
What do you think about that?
He's been on the whole time.
What do you think about that, Chili? Actually, no. And Leclerc's like, no, it doesn't matter. Never mind. It's fine.
Actually, shit. Was I on speaker? I didn't know. Are
you guys monitoring my tyres? I think they're going off. I don't think I can challenge
I've gone through
anymore.
A tunnel. I think that also it would be much cooler because then when two Mercedes drivers crash into each other, they can keep talking to each other at the same time too.
Boy, we didn't talk about that, but George Russell wasn't very happy. I mean,
quite rightly.
Lewis Hamilton put his hand up after the race and went, "Yeah, that was dumb. That was me. I was dumb there." But like Lewis, you were dumb.
But that was a classic revert to type Lewis Hamilton situation. It's like, all right, well, I'm on the outside and you're back there somewhere. I don't really have wing mirrors, so I'm just going to turn on in.
Very much. I'm going to drive here and you're going to work it out.
Yes.
Push George off the track in Japan as well. That's what George wasn't very happy about.
Yeah. Scan for apology. But it's like George Russell.
This is the form of... I mean, look, Lewis is magic. Lewis is a magician, but he also does things like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just how it goes. Well, should we... I think this last point is important.
Keen to hear what you think of this.
Andretti Cadillac. FIA has gone, yep, you're clear. You've got money and a car and a plan. And Formula One management, that's all that's left is for the people who own and run Formula One to say you're allowed to do it.
That's one sticky little thing.
Yeah.
Those other team that has to agree.
Yeah, this is a bit like, just because you've got a valid ID doesn't mean that the nightclub has to let you in. As far as, you've passed all the certifications and you are technically legally allowed to go into the nightclub, but the nightclub still gets to decide.
There were 4 entrants and the FIA set pretty strict conditions. You have to tick all these boxes to get in, and then Andretti Cadillac was the only body that got through all the checks. And now they're like, FOM, over to you. Just get the approval of all the teams if you don't mind. And the teams and drivers are like,
get them all signed here.
Less money, more competition? No thanks.
No, an odd number as well of teams. I don't like that.
This is just such a weird situation to be in.
Yeah, and now drivers are being asked if they would want them or not.
They're like, yeah, and then the team says, next time someone asks you if you want another team on the grid,
no.
Say no. And they're like, I'd like to
unless it's something from
my previous answer, revise it from yes to no.
Yeah, unless it's a team from perhaps our automotive group, and then yes, of course,
a potential engine customer for us, please.
Yeah.
We would like that.
Then you're allowed to go. Okay. No, it's look, more the merrier, right? We can have more back markers. Looking forward to it. Let's get more pay drivers in there. Let's just open it up.
Not
Let's
to
get
there
24
too early,
teams.
but that's what the quiz is about.
I reckon we could get 24. We get 24 drivers, and then we can have 24 races, and then everyone can win a race.
Everyone
and
gets
all fair
one.
and nice.
This is
Everyone
so nice.
gets one. Okay.
Let's have a theme race, one for everybody. I'm pro more teams. I understand that it's like less money per team because they split the pie between them. But like, I get it's frustrating. It's frustrating that Haas is hanging in there because otherwise they would surely just buy Haas and just go for it. But
it's a key part of Formula One and Formula One's heritage that has gone missing. New teams coming in every year and old teams going bankrupt and everything having to change around at the back every season. And we haven't had that in ages. Yes, it's a more stable sport with more people watching and maybe the product's slightly better. But I would say one of the key tenets, pillars, if you will, of Formula One has disappeared because now I know all the team names and I know all the drivers. And where are the Marussia, Manor, whatever... Arrows, Jordans, whatever's of Formula One these days? We haven't got one. We've got Haas, and they're still here. Yes, where are the Super Aguris? Even just regular Aguri, I would take at this point.
Yeah, average Aguri, mid Aguri.
That mid Aguri. So yeah, get in here, Andretti Cadillac, and get. I'm sure doesn't he have kids, Mario Andretti?
He does.
Who are good Formula One drivers or good drivers that he could.
I think they're so
nepotism into Formula One.
I think they've had long and illustrious careers in US forms of racing. And they're probably now retired because Mario Andretti's
they
quite
must
old
have
now.
kids, right?
Yeah, Michael Andretti, who did quite well, but I think he's also retired, like from IndyCar or whatever.
No, but I want them to have kids.
I want grandkids.
I want grandkid races. I want Andretti dynasty. I want a Formula One dynasty. It's not enough that we have this, son of. I want full ranges. Now that we've had 2 Rosbergs, I want a 3rd Rosberg.
Yeah, I was posting in the Discord the other day about old Australian clips of Formula One and how like you watch the old highlights of whatever and it's always from the Australian coverage because someone back in the day must have captured them all and then digitized them. And I was like, look, here's the intro to the 98 Spa Grand Prix. It's the Australian coverage. And then number 1, there were 11 teams on the grid, 22 drivers. Number 2, amongst those drivers, old mate Jos Verstappen.
Yes.
Like, this is storylines in storylines here.
There we go. All right. Well, yes, we want more teams. And yes, we want more of them to be changing hands all the time. And I don't just mean the second Red Bull team being called a new name every 4 years. I want completely new. Okay?
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say on that. We're done here. That's all the Formula One that's fit to print.
Superquiz is all about that. Should we get into it?
Yes.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round 1?
Can you repeat the question?
All the talk about a new team, new cars, new everything. I created my own quiz by going, how many cars have we had on the grid? When did the regulations change? I basically wrote 3 of the questions like straight away in my head, and I was like, these are just questions that I have that I want to know the answers to. So therefore,
you went researching.
This is becoming the super quiz about super grids.
Oh, I like it. Or is it or Rod wants answers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the difference?
That's true.
I'm here to either be quizzed by you to learn something or to research something myself to learn something. Either way, that's what the super quiz is about. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions for you all about super grids or related to grid sizes, etc. Mm-hmm. Starting with question the number 1. Are you prepared? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we go.
100%.
This is about the maximum grid size. According to the current regulations, what would be the absolute maximum number of cars that we could have on the grid at one time?
Maximum amount of cars. According to existing regulations. Just 20, right? Why would that be any more?
Well, there's 20 teams currently, but that's not the cap.
Oh, there is a cap. Okay.
Say.
I'm going to say 22 then. They're allowing for 2 extras just in case.
Just 2 spares, just some bonus ones.
Just in case, Anthony Davidson and Paul di Resta want to get in there and settle some scores.
Current cap is actually 26. There could be as many as 26 cars on the grid at any one race.
Why have you got that level of capacity and backup ready to go?
I guess back in the day there were more teams, but also like there were times when they were like, we've got proposed entrants from 3 new teams, and we would really love to get their money. So let's allow for the fact that they all make it up. But that's the kind. Like this is to say, currently 26. We have 20, yes, but we can't have more than 26. So if there was 26 on the grid right now, there would be no talk even of more teams unless they change the regulations, which it turns out they do.
Do we even have a garage room for that? Like I don't even imagine
that's part of the problem, right?
All of these places have enough spaces for these cars. Okay.
As well as having a cap on 26 cars in the race, the most. This is sort of going back a little while now, but there was a bigger cap on the number of cars that you could have in qualifying. You used to actually be able to have a maximum of 30 cars qualifying, and the idea was you would have 26 cars in the race. 30,
the 107% limit or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You would have 30 cars competing for those 26.
For the right to race.
Yes, 26 race spots. But the problem is, this is the problem I was trying to solve for myself. What's the maximum number of cars that were ever trying to get into a race? It turns out the maximum number was 39 cars that were trying to get into and qualify. So there were 39 cars. You can have a maximum of 30 in qualifying and 26 then, like the top 26
so how did you get 39 to 30?
Right? So that's the question. If you had 39 cars, how would you determine which 30 get to qualify and the top 26 go into the race? What would your mechanism be for trying to work that out?
Oh, I think you probably have a little bit of like, can you put down do you look good in practice? Are you got any some times? You got any practice times that you can show us? Have you got any priors? Like, okay, you turned up on Thursday, you whipped around, your car works, right? So let's say you could have a working car that can go around at a good lick. That would be my first thing. Mm-hmm. Like minimum, minimum requirements. Got a car, it's fast. What else could you have? Yeah, do you have you got to make sure that you've got the facilities, I suppose. If you've got somewhere you're going to look after that car and your people. If you've got a coffee machine, these are the important things.
What if you're like Ferrari and you have a bad day during qualifying and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not going to be racing? I'm Ferrari. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't care if I'm 29th fastest. I'm still racing. I'm Ferrari.
So I suppose that's it, right? Yeah. You're saying that you get grandfathered in for brand purposes.
Sort of. Very
so you've got a history. Have you historically raced in like X amount of races in the previous season or something? Like, did you race in 80% of races last year? Then you're in this top 30.
You're all around it. You basically, there's 2 factors. So again, there's 26 cars in the race, but there's 30 that might qualify. So how do you come to that 30 number? Well, if you're one of the 26 top cars, you are pre-qualified. Top meaning in the last 3 or 4 months. If you're top on points, you're pre-qualified. That doesn't mean you're in the race, but you don't have to qualify. So that leaves, let's say there's 39 cars, 26 are pre-qualified. That leaves 13 that have still got to sort out some shit. And there's only 4 spots left for qualifying because there's 13 qualifying, 26 in the race. Amazing. So there's 13 cars do a pre-qualifying session the week before. So they rock up on the Thursday the week before. 13 cars.
Well, the other race is happening somewhere else.
To work out which 4 are going to compete with the other 26 in qualifying to work out which 26 are going to race. Not complex at all.
This sounds like trying to get a visa for a country that people go to. Like, how do I get there? Well, you have to get a form to request the form. Where do I get the form? You got to go into the office. Where's the office? You got to make a booking to get to the office.
Do you have a booking? You need to go and get a form for a pre-booking.
You need a pre-booking form. Yeah, that's got to be co-signed by the founder. But how did they... First, I have a lot of questions. The first one is the fact that would be impossible these days because you can't be racing around Monaco the week before because it's not open. No. Also, we have so many back-to-back races this time around. It's like, well, we're here to qualify for next weekend.
This is back when there was like 12 races a year.
Yeah, on dedicated tracks that were, off in the middle of random, I
guess there were people who were just rich enough who maybe like had their own Formula 2 car that were just like, we could just bolt a few bits on and then we're in Formula 1, baby.
Well, That's what it was like. That's the dream that Rush kind of pushed on. That was like, I just bought a chassis from a Formula One car from last year. Now we can race.
Yeah,
it's that
very
easy.
much like that. Exactly.
I suppose that's what Lawrence Stroll thought. It was just like, let's buy a team. Now we can race. Easy.
Like, even more so than now, but playing up to the idea of just like, you're just an uber billionaire. Wouldn't you love to just race Formula One or have a team?
Yeah.
Not even as
your nephew,
an outfit,
get him in there.
A season, just one race even, that would be great.
Yeah.
So really
that'd be so good. If we could have 3 rounds of Formula One, even just 1 round where it was open qualification. Turn up with your fastest car. You know, and we'll let you in, you know. No, we don't need, it doesn't need to meet F1 requirements. You know, if you've got a WEC car that's fucking fast, mate, turn up. Let's see it.
Well, you sort of edged towards one of the other questions here, but I'll read this one out. Between 1982 and 1987, there was one race every year where they could not have more than 20 cars, no matter what, on the grid. Which one do you think that was?
I think it's probably Monaco, because they don't have the garages.
They just don't have space for 39 cars. What are you, crazy?
Mental.
Can't be doing that.
No, the rest of them will have to be in Nice.
Yeah.
So,
question the number 4. What's the maximum number of cars that any one team has entered in a single race?
I reckon 3. I reckon we've had 3 a few times in the modern era.
Calling it modern, this is going back to the 70s, but, for sure, there were certainly lots of teams that entered 3. Some teams entered 4.
4?
And can you believe it? The BRM racing team ran 5 cars for one weekend.
Where did they go?
5 cars. They just like getting randoms off the street. Like, can you drive? Yeah, you're in a car.
Yeah, you're in a car. Great. What's your helmet size? Hop in. I like the idea that like the taxi driver who was taking them from the airport to the hotel was like, "Wow, you're pretty nippy. You reckon you could?
I tell you what,
got a couple of spare cars here, mate. You want to pop in?" I like this idea, but if we had this, the richest teams would just be like, I'm fielding, like, hey, we've got all those extra grid spots at the back there. Why can't we just put some more cars in? You know, we've got all these Red Bulls, like, we've got all these young drivers. Can't we just stick them in some other cars? That'd be all right.
Especially when, like I said before, it wasn't just guaranteed that if you rocked up, you were going to be racing. It was the fastest cars in qualifying went through. So if you've got 2 cars or 3 cars or 4 cars and it's good, they'll all go through. So they had to put stop to that shit.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like thank God, this is where Formula One is at, right? That we can't have any chance that none of the teams are, like, for some reason not looked after. So if we did still have that qualifying time thing, or that teams actually had to qualify for the race, too many teams would just fall off the back. There would just be, too many spins, no time posted, too much, like, track limits stuff. Anyway.
We're down to the last question. Question the number 5. There's currently 10 teams. We're all worried about what happens if that number goes up. But the question to you, Zach, according to the regulations, what happens if the numbers go down, specifically down to 7 teams or fewer? What do they get to do?
7 teams or fewer. What does who get to do?
The team.
The team. Do they get to field a third car if there's 7 teams or fewer?
They do. They all get to run a third car.
Ooh, finally got one right. I feel like
bonus
it's the first
car.
one I got right. Yeah. Who would you like to see with, like, if you had to take one driver and put them in another team? What team of 3 would you like to see?
A current driver?
Oh, it could be a current driver or one that's recently retired or not in Formula One right now. But yeah, if you were going to, you have to have the 2 that already exist. But if you were going to add a third driver to any team, which team and which driver?
I'm thinking, who hates each other that we can get back together?
I love that. That's where your brain goes straight away. I'm like, what would be really fun?
I was thinking Sebastian
really
Vettel, but he loves everybody, and then that's not a fun story.
That's true. You could build a team with world champions, I guess, but there's none 2 world champions on the same team right now, right?
No, I mean, like Liam Lawson, like everyone's favorite son, Liam Lawson, who feels like everyone hates that he won't be driving because they announced that Yuki and Daniel are going to be their drivers. But all of a sudden, you got 3 cars, plenty of room for Liam.
Yes, easily. Exactly. Or put Liam in the other Red Bull and really show up Perez. Suddenly it's like, I told you.
Bring back Brendan Big Heart Hartley, have our all New Zealand team.
An all New Zealand team. Yes. We could just have an Anzac team. Ricardo, Lawson, Piastri, Hartley.
Oh, so wait a second. You've got Ricardo, Piastri, Lawson, and Hartley. You've only got 3 drivers. You've got to break someone's heart and be like, sorry, Darren.
Damn. I'm going to have to... Big heart, Harley. I'm sorry. I do like
we
you,
got
but
you
you're out.
back, but we're not interested anymore.
Well, that's what happened to his Formula One career. They scraped him out of World Endurance Championship and they stuck him in Formula One and they went, actually, maybe not.
Do you reckon they accidentally called Lawson instead of calling Hartley when they needed a... They were like it's just in like Helmut Marko's phone as NZ with a steering wheel. And they're just like, he'll do. Brendan. They're like, and Liam's like, who?
Hello?
Doesn't matter. Did you call the wrong person? No.
No.
I meant to call you. We want you to drive.
Yeah. Me, Helmut Marko, I've never made a mistake in my entire life.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Literally,
okay. I like the New Zealand team. I think I would probably go and put... I don't know. Let's get...
Pastor Maldonado, bring him back. Let's spice it up.
What, and put him at Haas? Just for the ultra, like, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Maldonado. No, it's got to be Grosjean like if it's going to be that.
You could have like an enforcer getting out there, getting their elbows out. Then you need a speedster. And a defender.
Yes. You get fully balanced teams.
This is like a roller derby. You need like all the roles.
I saw a bit of Twitter and TikTok consternation around this just proves that, like if you got Oscar Piastri in the right car, he'd be faster than Max, like da-da-da-da. And I think people just, not to be like, I think people forget, but Formula One really, 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 really is about the cars. Like it's 90%. Even the drivers will tell you this. It is like 10% driver, 90%, if not more, car. It's all car. That's the main thing. I'm sorry if you've been sold a different dream by Drive to Survive that you somehow think it's all of the drivers and the drivers are the ones that are making it all happen. Pretty much not.
Well, I mean, a brilliant driver can't win without a reasonably really brilliant car.
Yeah, or in a season where there isn't an incredible car going around.
But that's the thing. Like, you put an average driver in the best car, they'll probably win.
Probably going to win a lot of races, unless you're, Perez, who I think would win a lot more races if he didn't have to worry about Max Verstappen. Maybe maybe not. I think that Perez is done. I think we can call it on Perez. Does he have another? Is he really racing again next season? That can't be right.
Provisionally, I think he's announced, but it's got to be provisional, right?
There's a lot of time to go between now and February, right? There's a lot of.
He's got to be running out of chances. Like, I mean,
Lawson's right there. Daniel Ricciardo's right there. Ricciardo's the perfect number 2 driver for Max Verstappen.
This is the thing about Red Bull. Like, it's just, if any team's going to do it, they are. If any team is going to be like, I know we said that Daniel was at AlphaTauri, but we had a brainwave. What about?
Just listen to this for a second.
Yeah, just come with us on this one. It's already done, and Daniel's already in the team. We decided
it's already happened
yesterday. This is happening.
Sergio who? I don't even know who you're talking about.
Well, look,
all right.
You did very well on the quiz. Thank you so much. We should boot this baby home. We got stuff to do. You've got stuff to do. I've got sleep to have.
I don't even know what time it is there.
Yeah, 11:30.
Oh, it's still the same
day. Get my beauty rest. Thanks for listening. We've got a couple of shows left, I guess, and we're getting late into the season now. But there's probably
there are only 2 races left.
There's more than 2 races. This is about 5 races.
Good. How many?
Good.
Who have we got left?
Probably do a November show and then a season wrap-up show, I would guess, something like that.
What are the races that are left? If I go Formula1.com.
Still got to go to Las Vegas, baby. That's another thing I should call out, is there's efforts afoot to get a Melbourne viewing of the Las Vegas race somewhere in a public space with people. This is a thing. If you're in the Discord, there's been like little hints of this, but I'm not organising it, but someone else is. But I'm happy to promote it if more details come to light. We will share them in the Discord, in here, whatever. But if you're in Melbourne and are keen to watch a race with other people, just keep your eyes open. I'll try and tell you about it.
I like it. We got. I don't like this. Sometimes I'm looking at this season calendar, and sometimes I get tricked into thinking that there's a race that don't actually happen. But we've still got Qatar and Mexico.
Really? I was going to say Mexico. Qatar, Mexico.
Why is Qatar? Why are we in Qatar right now? So weird.
Great question.
Stick that one at the end of the year, or at the start, or something. Anyway,
I don't know.
Qatar, Mexico. We've got the Americas. Some of the best races left.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm excited. 5 races. Well, wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be another podcast, I guess, in a month-ish time or X number of races time. Definitely. They're all going to be rough times for me, so it probably won't be very active on the old threads, but we'll see. Also, threads, you probably noticed that it's not organized chronologically. So you check in after the race, and it's like, oh, who's excited for qualifying? And it's like, fucking algorithm bullshit. Just sort it out. But anyway, I won't be posting much, is what I'm saying, because I'll be sleeping.
Yay. Sleep's good.
But you should still follow us, because whatever we post on there, it's going to be good. But get in the Discord. That's where the action is. Predictions are still happening in the Discord. If you want to get in there and tell us who you think will take pole, win, and tenths, shower yourself in glory or misery, whatever's your game. And you can check out everything at superlicense.fm. The FM stands for Zach.
Formula Muchachos.
We'll probably try and do some more live streams, I guess. We're getting into that weird time of the year where 1 hour before the race is going to be 2 a.m. and I'm not going to be getting up to 2 a.m. to do a live stream, but I'll let you know the times.
You're busy streaming Fortnite on your other Discord.
Yeah, at the same time, which I'm a talented guy. But, I feel like that's all the important stuff.
I think so. I think that was a good F1 roundup for someone if they, let's say, for instance, they haven't been as close to Formula One recently as they usually are. This was a good check-in about Formula One.
Yeah,
and we've got,
that's what we aim for.
Look, just because Max has won the World Championship doesn't mean you can't cheer on Logan Sargent at the next race. Because maybe he will spin out. Who knows?
Maybe he'll throw up. Who knows?
At least we can tell stories. It doesn't have to be the bad prawns, the bad prawns story now.
This is good. We have something else. We have something to be like, that wasn't the last time an F1 driver threw up in his helmet. Wasn't even
update the quizzes, everyone.
Yes, that's it. Update your tattoos. I'm going to get a tattoo of the last time a Formula One driver threw up in their helmet. That's weird.
If anyone asks you what those dates are on Rod's shoulder, it's every single time a Formula One driver has thrown up in their helmet.
My shoulder. Oh, gosh. All right. Well, look, thanks for listening. Stay tuned. See you on the lines, or in person if you know where I live. But until next time, I guess. My name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
Talk to you about F1 next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah.